Many of us have to pick a side in Tarkov, but just how much do we know about who we work for? USEC is one of those choices, but who exactly are they? We find some information in an old issue of Soldier magazine. In this issue, we will continue our series of articles about modern mercenaries, stories of the largest private armies of today and of their operations. Of course, there are a lot of omissions in these stories. After all, neither the mercenaries themselves nor their employers are very eager to share the details of their activities. However, intensive investigation into the topic still brings some results. This time, we'll turn our attention to USEC, the increasingly notorious private military company. The company itself is primarily associated with two names: Brian Kernighan, an American businessman, and John Berger, a retired colonel in the Royal Marines. In his early career, Brian Kernighan had nothing to do with the armed forces. Having inherited his father's trucking business, he decided to pursue a risky and therefore profitable direction, hauling goods across the Mexican border through the deserts of the southern USA. As Kernighan himself admitted once in one of his rare interviews, he very soon realised he had underestimated the danger. From time to time the trucks have been attacked, and sometimes have disappeared altogether. Then, Kernighan started to hire armed guards, which allowed him to take more valuable orders and receive higher returns. Over time, the businessman realised that in this line of work, it makes more sense to run a security detail of your own instead of paying someone else. That's how the company came to employ the professional mercenaries and run a fleet of armoured vehicles. Consecutively, the number of clients who required support services rather than transportation also increased over time. That's when Kernighan knew it was time to change his line of work. However, as an experienced businessman, Kernighan quickly realised he won't go far without the experience of managing military personnel. Hence, he decided to establish his new business on the already existing foundation by acquiring Red Bird, a company owned by George Steiner. The new company was renamed KernISEC, one of the future halves of USEC. Little is known about George Steiner. He's a retired Brigadier General of the United States Army, a veteran of the Gulf War, and now a member of the board and Chief Operating Officer of USEC. Steiner became the co-owner of Red Bird Private Military Company after retirement from the military in 1994, and by the invitation of an old friend and colleague. The company used to compete pretty well with other PMCs for a while, but after the death of its founder, it came under Steiner's full control. As it turned out, he may have been a good officer, but nothing above mediocre as a businessman, and soon enough, Red Bird went into decline that allowed Kernighan to purchase it for a more than reasonable price, considering its manpower, vehicle fleet, and training grounds. The second significant figure in the founding of USEC is John Berger, a retired British Royal Marines colonel, also a Gulf War veteran and a highly decorated soldier. A few years ago, John Berger gave an extensive interview to our colleagues from the popular British military media, so his biography is very well known, provided, of course, you believe his story. After retirement in 1994, the veteran active duty officer got bored quickly. Once, an old friend had mentioned in passing conversation that he'd made good money for 2 years as an escort to British ships passing the waters of Somalia. Easy and decently paid job. It didn't take long for Berger to make a decision. However, the colonel was less fortunate than his friend. The ship was attacked on the first voyage, and Berger, armed with only a revolver, failed to repel the attack. He survived, and nevertheless this failure only spurred Berger on. On his return to the UK, he was once again employed as an escort abroad, but this time in the company of several retired officers with much better equipment. Fate challenged Berger yet again, and the pirates attacked the ship, this time as well, but he was ready, and the attack was repelled. Returning home, he immediately decided to create the Safe Sea Maritime Transport Paramilitary Escort Company, the future second half of USEC. The rapid rise of Safe Sea is closely linked to another intriguing person. A former British civil servant and current USEC Head of Business Development, a shadow director on the company's board, Ronald Henry Hunt. Berger himself describes their acquaintance as purely an accidental one, happening in 1998 on a sea cruise. The contact was a fruitful one. Right after this, Safe Sea scored a profitable government contract, and then another one, and so on. A year later, Hunt quit public service and became Berger's companion. According to rumours, it was Ronald Hunt who persuaded Berger that the company needs to move on to new international levels and set up talks about merging with USEC. The negotiations were successful, leading to the establishment of USEC in 1999. The business qualities of Kernighan, combat experience of Steiner, management skills of Berger, and the diplomatic prowess of Hunt turned out to be a very rewarding combination. The newly formed private military company experienced a rapid rise, backed by the credibility of the British government contracts, and soon enough, USEC were noticed by the Pentagon, looking to staff up for a new war in the Middle East. However, in Iraq, USEC was just one of the many PMCs, so figuring out exactly what its role was there is now almost impossible. Its name was not mentioned in any high-profile scandals, unlike some of the other private military companies. A new development in the company came in 2007, when USEC commenced a close partnership with the major international holding Terror Group. Rumours claimed that such a prominent customer came from an unexpected source, thanks to the contact of George Steiner, who hasn't been known to take a role in company development and preferred to run the military side of the business. However, cooperation with Terror Group has brought the company not only a rapid rise, but a certain degree of notoriety as well. The contracts have more often than not marred USEC with scandals, sometimes international, like in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2009. Usually, such shady stories were associated with a certain Gus Sant, a former Green Beret and now head of the USEC Special Operations Division, who is probably running the non-standard missions for the company. At the moment, USEC has all but turned into the in-house guards of Terror Group, with its ambiguous reputation. Time will tell whether the choice Kernighan and Berger have made is the right one, or it is the beginning of the end for the once glorious company. The following month, we shall continue our series of articles devoted to the phenomenon of being a mercenary and attempt a deeper study of the history of the issue. Stay tuned. So that was a history of the USEC PMC, revealing an insight into their past and the people in control of their agenda. Their ultimate goal is still unknown. What do you think USEC are doing in Tarkov? Let me know in the comments.